When I was a kid, Dosla was probably my favorite character in Fire Emblem The Sacred Stones. Seeing this stout, bruiser-esque character with his giant axe sitting on his shoulder take on an army of Entombed by himself always felt pretty cool to me. That paired with his bushy beard and personality, which reminded me of Gimli from Lord of the Rings, always made him a staple on any of my teams. However, with time, I grew to understand Fire Emblem on a more complex level, you might say, and Dosla became less and less frequent on my teams, as better units slotted into his spot more often than not. Well, today, I aim to try to rekindle the childhood magic with Dosla, and I had to see if I could beat Fire Emblem 8 using him and him only. Before we get into the analysis, I just want to say how funny it is to see Seth refer to Dosla as princess, and him just responding with, "What?" It's just too funny to me, but let's get into it. This is our first solo run using a pre-promoted unit, and I have been theorizing a lot how these runs would look, and a lot of you guys have also been speculating in the comments about how pre-promoted units would work. So today we'll get our first look at it, and to no one's surprise, as you can probably see right now, the early game is a little bit of a piece of cake. So while this pure massacre goes on in the background, let's look at why that is by looking at Dosla's base stats. And there are a lot of interesting things here. First and foremost, his stats are looking probably better than all other characters that have been covered in this series so far. But in terms of promoted units, you might qualify those stats as pretty average, considering units like Seth and Dosla exist in this game. But putting that aside for the purpose of this video, it's quite noteworthy that Dosla has both the highest base HP and constitution in the game. The latter will allow him to yield all axes, well, except the devil axe, but I'm not planning on using it much in this run, with getting 0 speed penalty. His base strength and defense are amongst the higher echelon in the game in terms of base stats, with few units surpassing him. Even his skill at 11 is pretty decent, but on the other hand, his 4 points in luck are in the lower portions of characters here. But the two most interesting points to me are his resistance and his speed, which both face the same exact problem. Well, more so speed than resistance, since it's a more crucial stat in general in Fire Emblem. They look okay comparatively speaking to most bases in the game. However, considering that this unit is a pre-promoted, you could say that the numbers are actually pretty low, with 9 speed as a level 1 Berserker is a super tough sell if you ask me. Especially considering that Garcia, who's probably most renowned in this game for terrible speed, is a level 4 fighter with a base of 7, so that's kind of concerning. So in my opinion, this will be the thing we'll have to keep an eye on the most, because it will probably be his biggest struggle throughout this run. And as you may have seen, there are certain units he doesn't even double in the start of the game, which is not a good sign, so let's hope for better later on down the line. However, with all that being laid out, the one good thing Dosla has going for him is his class. The Berserker class is forever one of my favorites in Fire Emblem GBA. It gives him the ability to traverse mountains and water, but more importantly, it gives him a passive of plus 15 in crit chance, which gives him a constant edge over all other units, being able to pull out very clutch crits whenever it's needed. All right, let's move on to growth, where Dosla will not necessarily excel, as he is not considered a growth unit in this game. He's more meant to fill a whole late game as a half decent combat unit, half decent filler unit. Despite all of that though, he will sport very nice growths in both HP and strength, as you'd expect, which will find themselves at 85% and 50% respectively, and while they are not in the highest in the game, they are above the average for sure in that department. His skill and luck growths are very much in the lower tiers of this game, and quite meh, if you ask me. They're tough to... okay, not great. His speed growth at least is not horrendous, but does find itself to be a little bit below the average, a slight little below, with 40%, which is more than serviceable in most situations. His 30% defense, again, as was the case in the Amelia run, it's deceptively high given the average defense growth in this game is like 20 to 25%, so that's a pretty good plus in his favor, and he tops it all off of a 25% growth in res, which is mid mid at best, but you know, better than a lot of other units. So Dosla across the board in growth is far from what I'd consider traditionally bad, but it's quite mid through and through. Here we'll look at murdering the early game and hope for luck when it comes to growth to make the late game not as bad as I am currently anticipating it. So we won't spend a lot of time on this portion of the video, but the early game is kind of a piece of cake. As you may have been seeing in the background, once again, our base speed does show itself in certain instances where, as mentioned earlier, you could see Dosla not doubling certain bandits and sword user, and it kind of becomes a recurring situation against certain units. And it's a pretty concerning thing for a pre-promoted unit, especially this early on in the game. But we should get a few speed level ups eventually and be fine. Well, I think. I hope more than anything. On chapter 5, we'll pick up both the Draco Shield and Secret Book as is per usual. And that's because for pre-promoted units that get 20 less levels of growth than our other runs have had, every stat booster you can grab is kind of worth twice as much. Because one bad level is worse than one bad level if you'd have 40 levels to level up. But again, we'll skip ahead to chapter 8 because to no one's surprise, this is pretty easy. And we won't stop at chapter 8 because it's harder. We'll stop there because we could pick up the angelic robe. And there's a reason I do that. It's because Dosla should max out HP naturally or come very close to that. I don't think it's easy for him to miss out on maxing it out. Using the angelic robe, I can get there a little quicker. And as user Fatal Fox pointed out in my Gilliam solo run, maxing out HP early may be better for our overall growths. And it isn't really something I'm sure about, so feel free to correct me in the comments if what I'm saying here is a bunch of hogwash. But since the game randomly chooses which stat is leveled up, with the higher growths having a higher chance of being picked, if you take out one stat by maxing it out early, then quote unquote logically, your other stats will have more chance of being, again, quote unquote picked. Honestly, I don't know if that's any close to being true or making any sense at all, but let me know in the comments. Anywho, let's move to the route split right away. So chapter 9 will begin quite poorly. See, Dosla, even at around level 11, only has 11 speed. So 2 points in about 10-ish levels. Yeah, that's pretty bad right now. Our speed growth is kind of looking more like 20%. And speed doesn't only cost you the ability to double, it also costs you the advantage of being able to dodge a little bit more. Especially here with the amount of sword users will start to increase as we move forward. And the weapon triangle will work at our disadvantage then. It's also important to note that as the game moves forward, axe lock units run into a little bit of a problem because axe enemy units start to decrease in number while sword units increase by quite a lot. That being said though, going forward there should be a healthy amount of lance unit to counterbalance that. So it's not that bad, but sometimes it can cost you, especially with low accuracy units like Dosla. And we actually end up getting our first game over here as we get hit by a good amount of units, which is quite unfortunate. But we reset, and the second time we stick a little bit more to the forest tiles and play a little safer, and everything works like a charm. Coming into chapter 10, you'd think that I'd use the mountains to cross to Pablo and take him out quite quickly, but I actually don't end up doing that. Well, I mean, that's not true. I try a couple of times, but the reason I don't keep up with it is Tethys keeps dying. And you may be wondering why it's important to keep Tethys alive. Well, simply because Tethys has a goddess icon on her. And as mentioned earlier, I want to grab as many stat boosting items as I can. So I have to keep her alive. And the reason she dies more often is if Dosla goes through the mountains, the enemies will go straight for the fort where Tethys and Garrick and Ines are. While if I take the regular route with Dosla, I attract a few units away from that fort and can take care of them before they can cause too many issues for green units. So I delay my mountain crossing, allow them to not get overwhelmed, and then I go through the mountains to go get to Pablo. Okay, now things should simplify a little bit. I didn't think things would be complicated this early on, but seems like the maps are a little bit more complicated than I thought. So chapter 11 and 12 are monster maps, and monster maps are generally easy, especially route maps to just kill everything, so we move past that pretty quickly. We'll pick up the secret book and the energy ring from Ewan. which we will both use. Even chapter 13 will be relatively easy as we can rush down the boss. We can pick up the super essential speed wing by recruiting Amelia, and we didn't do that on chapter 9 because we took longer to get to her, so she had time to run away. So she comes back on chapter 13 and we pick up the speed wing. Here comes chapter 14, where we'll grab our second energy ring because our strength growth has been pretty shocking thus far, and we'll also grab our sword slayer because our matchup into Carlisle is pretty bad otherwise. But we succeed in taking him out and make it to the infamous chapter 15. As we begin chapter 15, I think it's time we check in with our friend Null, who does not fare well against this bandit and perishes in one measly hit. Oh, Null, you poor boy. Bye-bye, Null. See you next time. So other than waiting a million turns to grab the Swift Soul on this map because Dosla's luck is terrible, we finally get our level 20 Dosla, which weirdly I thought would happen much sooner, but it happens on the same level as literally every other character. So let's start looking at it. And honestly, at first glance, this might seem pretty good. We have maxed HP and strength. Nice, thanks to 2 energy rings, because we were really close to not making it on that front. All our other stats look either on the average though, or above them by a couple of points. But they are actually a little low if you think about it. That's because we use 2 secret books, so our skill is technically a little low, and we use 1 speed wing, so considering our speed is a little low again, 1 goddess icon, 1 Drago shield, and 1 talisman, which I'll pick up on the next chapter, but this screenshot already takes it into account. So our luck, defense, and res are just average, which honestly is more than fine. I wasn't expecting a stellar unit out of Dosla, so I'm okay with it. But I'll be honest, I'm a little worried about the 16 speed. But we'll talk about that just a little later. But it just goes to show how much some more levels when using an unpromoted unit goes a long way to make some units quite formidable. I am looking at you, Amelia. Other than that, chapter 15 goes off without a problem, and we move on to chapter 16, which shouldn't be too hard, hence why I try to rush the throne. And I do make it quite far, but I quickly realize that with this avoid, Dosla will need a little bit of help, and these heroes are causing me some problems. Okay, well that's bad. So I change up my strategy a little bit and reuse the strategy we used for the Erica run. For our very first solo run, I had to use this strategy. Haven't had to use it again, but now I have to pull it out for a pre-promoted unit. I can't believe it. So we'll stand on the pillars at the bottom, cross the threshold where all the reinforcements and extra units start moving forward, and let them all come right to us and clear them out using the extra avoid from the pillars. I'll also be able to grab both the tomahawk from the first thief who retreats at the bottom near the stairs because that's where they escape, and I'll grab the talisman in the same fashion off the second thief. Once that's done, we'll slowly pick apart the heroes using our sword reaver that we picked up on chapter 14, which is extremely important for this run actually, and using pure waters to try to absorb as much magic damage from the long range mages as possible. We'll take out the sages and then follow it up on Orson with a halberd, with which we hit with the 26% chance. Holy heck, okay. Now we just have to work around the sword. I'll equip the sword reaver and switch between that and the halberd to finish him off. We'll use the elixir and wait, and we miss as he switched to his spear. But it was actually all part of the plan, because now we switch back to the halberd and take him out. That was the hardest horse and fight I've ever had to do. Holy crap. So we move on to chapter 17, which isn't hard per se, but we do have a little detour to grab the brave axe. So we'll go through the water, we'll take out that hero who has the brave axe and, you know, take it for ourselves because it's a weapon that can be very strong down the line for him. We'll then head towards Leon number 1, and you'll see that Dosla's low skill and speed are starting to become somewhat of a problem as the hit rates are a lot lower now, especially against speedier units, and even certain druids being close to 60% hit rate. We do get lucky and make it near Leon and equip the tomahawk, and we heal. All right, so we'll get attacked by a few wyvern knights off the bat, of course, as they'll come to us. So we'll use a lot of uses of the tomahawk, but as you can see, they're not too much of a problem. But even with the weapon triangle advantage with their slim lance, you can see they kind of have like high 40s to hit, and they all kind of hit us, which is annoying, except that last one here. But here comes the pounding. He also hits us, and we break our tomahawk. Well, of course we break our tomahawk. Why wouldn't it be any other way? 62% chance. Oh, we dodge. Okay, Leo, 49% chance. We dodge that one. We should dodge a Luna here. That's easy enough. The flux hits. We have 25 HP, but we have a clear line to him. Steel axe. Ooh, I don't like that. Let's check our supply, and let's just take Garm, as it's very strong and accurate, and it can take him out in one hit, and we beat Leo. So that was a nice little fight. A little scarier than I thought, but nonetheless very nice. So we move on to chapter 18. Okay, now it's time for the other infamous chapter of this game, chapter 18. And if any of what we've been seeing up to this point is an indicator, they're not gonna make it easy on me, because pairing Dozla's subpar dodge and his mediocre resistance, it's not really inspiring me any form of confidence. You'll see me purely abuse pure waters here, by the way, because even after using one, the shadow shot does about 20 damage, which is just bonkers. And as you're probably seeing right now, the hit rates of the Gorgons are in the mid to high 50s. But while all of this may seem dire, and it feels like it is, let me show you the overall strategy we'll be going for. So as you just saw, some of the Gorgons were killed by the fire tiles, so we'll be reusing the strategy where we try to get out of the range of some of them so they stop moving on specific fire tiles. And we'll also find a home down at the bottom of the map where we'll be able to just wait it out a little bit and attract them down, as they have to pass through a lot of fire tiles, weakening them and allowing us to do a little bit of damage on those Gorgons overall. And maybe we get a couple of ones that die on a fire tile or something, you know, that a man can dream. So here what we'll do is we'll go take out that one on the right because it's slow enough and it's an easy kill, and while the others can't reach us yet, we'll easily take her out, and then the next turn they'll all start moving over to the right side, where we will wait an extra turn after using a pure water, of course, to increase our res, and slowly allow them to filter through that right side, clump up on those fire tiles, take some damage, and then since we are now in range of them, we'll start moving down a little bit, continue having them walk on those fire tiles as much as possible. Here one goes down, our poison is cured, which is nice, and we'll head to the left side entirely, allow them, again, more of them to walk on the tile. We take out another one, so there's two here on the right side, and we'll go attack one directly. We'll also use Garm to attack it and kill it, and because Garm, if you didn't know, gives a +5 speed passive, and we dodge that, which is also very nice, and it will in turn die on the fire tile, which is also very nice. So yeah, Garm gives +5 speed passive to whoever yields Garm, so it gives us a lot more dodge if somebody were to attack us, and it might have helped us earlier. Here we will equip our hand axe because we knew this one did not have a stone, it only had a demon surge, so we could counter attack it and attack it, no risk in getting stone. We go kill the one up here who has stone, and they keep following us down and walking on those tiles, so we're gonna quickly do a ring around the rosy here. Pretty much we'll take out this Gorgon right here. We'll probably have another one come and attack us, try to stone us probably, but it will walk on a fire tile, as you'll see about in a second here. 46% chance to dodge. We dodge it. That's very nice. So here we're looking in a pretty good position. So what we're gonna do is we have the little concentration on the right there. There's 5 Gorgons over here and the boss. We have this little one on the hill. What we'll end up doing here is go to the top left part because there are 2 Gorgons there that do not move at all, and it was also going to allow us a chance to attract the boss Gorgon away from the other ones. The boss Gorgon on this map is the easiest one in that little cluster to move away. We almost died in the axe river here. Do we have a potion? Hopefully we do, because that was pretty bad. Okay, we do, which is good because holy crap, that hit and it hurt us, but we should be fine going forward given that we don't get hit by a million things, which is why we'll skip ahead to the boss. All right, so what I'll do here is after using a pure water, we just decide to go in and attack the boss Gorgon, kill it. We take the damage off the first hit. The shadow shot tries to hit us. We dodge it. Here comes the stone. Oh, man. I don't know why I just went in balls to the wall there. I thought I could maybe get it. We unfortunately got hit by that 46% stone. And as you can see here on the screen, I can't really believe it. I'm like, oh, this is so annoying. But this gives you a general idea of what the strategy will be for this. Lots of kiting around, allowing a lot of the Gorgons to die by themselves on fire tiles, and hoping for a little bit of luck to fall our way. But that was close, and I'd love to tell you guys that most of my runs for this map went about this way, but the reality is that most often than not, we'd get hit by a stone much earlier or die even before making it to the bottom area. And I have about 2 hours of footage on 3x speed just dedicated to chapter 18. It was a pretty soul-crushing experience with the amount of things that did not go my way. But in all honesty, you need a pretty good roll of luck with Dosla to make it through this map. And to convey this to you all in the most succinct format possible, I prepared a little expose. So roll the tape, please. Yeah, that was bad. I usually tend to record these in one sitting, but after the past 2 hours there, I decided to call it and go to bed. I was like, I'm done with this. This is the worst. I gotta sleep on this and think about it. And I was also starting to convince myself that it might not be possible, even though like it felt possible because the odds of dodging were low enough to give me hope, but they felt a little too high for it to always like not fall in my favor, for the chips to never fall in my favor actually. But maybe if I looked at it with fresh eyes, things might fall into place a little better, because I'll keep it a buck there. In the end, it felt like I was being less deliberate with my actions due to tiredness. But here we are now, a full day later on our first run. Let's see how it goes. Okay, so I'm skipping ahead to the right side Gorgon after we took out the eggs at the bottom, because the other part is pretty easy. We equip the iron axe to make sure we can hit because it's got better accuracy, and kill it. And as you can see, all the hags are hatching at this moment. All of them are heading towards me, but we'll keep our strategy of using Garm to dodge the least easy things to dodge, and using pure waters to keep our resistance high enough. As you can see here, there will be a congregation of these Gorgons once again. We will take a minute to walk away from them, and as they keep chasing us, they walk on fire tiles. But as you can see, unlike last time, none of them died yet, so let's hope somebody perishes soon. And here you go, our first one. Okay, so there's 3 on our right side and there's a couple up there. So what I end up doing here is I go in this little hole, equip Garm for dodging, and use a pure water for resistance, and one just walks right up to me and never attacks. I dodged the 57%, which is really good. 2 of them die on the fire tiles, and then I go attack this one with stone using my hand axe, and the others chase me. One that stone don't hit. Okay, 43. Ooh, that was close, but he's on a fire tile right away, so he should perish. And then I take the opportunity to walk all the way up. I even go on the fire tile knowing I'll take some damage, because I'm like, you know what, I'd rather take damage than get stoned. But ultimately I stay out of the range. One walks on fire, I also walk on fire. Here, I'm kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place, but that last one only has Demon Surge, so I can simply just attack the one with stone, kill it, and then counterattack the one with Demon Surge, and in turn also kill it. The spiders can be scary, but I'm not too worried here. All right, now that this first section is over, I head to the little top there. I attract the one with stone from this like right hand side path, and then I just take it out as it got damaged by the fire tile. The evil eye I'm not too worried about, as I had just pure water, and the other one on the right I'm also not too worried about, as it's only got a Demon Surge on it, and I think I can one shot it. We'll head back to the boss area because, again, the left side isn't too bad. There's the one on the little hill. There's the two others that don't move. There's the reinforcement. But all in all, that's pretty easy. So let's just skip ahead to the boss. All right, so here I change up my strategy a little bit. After having you equip Garm, I pure water, and I get myself in a range where it will try to attack me with Demon Surge, because for some reason, these Gorgons always choose to attack if you can't counterattack, or most often than not, choose to attack if you cannot counterattack. If you can counterattack, they will use the stone to not get hit. So they prioritize not getting hit, and I attract this one away from the group, and using Garm, hoping to dodge. I didn't in that case. And here I choose to walk away, which in my opinion is a mistake. I don't know why I did that. I should have just attacked her, but ultimately I just walked to it, hand axe, and I critted, so it didn't matter. The other Gorgon did not come and attack me. And here I'm looking at their kit. They all have stone. I'm a little scared, but I think I gotta, you know, brave my fears and just go in, because unfortunately this plays a little bit of a stalemate. That's the part where you need the most luck, but I'm a little terrified. I will take a minute to make sure I top off on pure water first, because, you know, it's a scary premise before we jump right into the you know, the shark infested waters there. All right, we attack the first one. She dodges with 81% and I get hit by 58. Excuse you? Okay, 60. Yeah, that was really bad. I might lose here. Oh no. Okay, 50% chance. Oh my god, they all hit. Please don't hit. Please don't hit. Oh my god, Dosla, you beautiful, beautiful bastard. Oh my Lord, that was close. Okay. So I back away for a second, knowing full well that, oof, that was very close. I equip a steel axe, use my last of the elixirs that I have, and then the other guys are going to come kill themselves right on Dosla, and I'll be able to finish off the Gorgon right after everything is done. I guess technically there's still a chance they all hit me and I die, but, you know, it didn't happen this time. So we passed chapter 18 after over 2 hours of playing this gosh darn G game. It's actually pretty impressive that I got this on the first try of my second day. It just goes to show that all it takes sometimes is a good night of sleep, everybody. Now that this is done, let's move on to chapter 19. And I think it's the perfect time to address the elephant in the room, which we've been slowly hinting at this entire run, and that's Dosla's terrible speed. As discussed earlier in the video, Dosla's speed is currently 16, and that is super low, even by his standards. Given that Garm is the sacred weapon we are using right now, and that will give him a passive of +5 speed when using it, his speed will look more around 21 for the final fights. It's not that bad. 21 is pretty good. However, there is still a problem with that. And that has to do with the Demon King's speed. Usually I don't talk about him until the final chapter, but I feel like we need to have this conversation because it's kind of also related to the conversation we've had in a previous run, in our Gilliam run. And here it's once again relevant. And that is because the Demon King's speed on hard mode is either 18 or 19. And in the GBA titles of Fire Emblem, you need at least 4 more speed than your opponent to double. And as you might have been doing the math right now, well, that's more like 22 or 23, which means that Dosla is falling one short of even having a chance to double him. And the inability to double is usually a huge hurdle. So I felt it was pretty important to address, and you may ask yourself, why specifically on chapter 19? Well, because it's actually the final chapter where you can procure yourself a speedwing in this game. It's situated amongst the chests on the left-hand side of the map, but there is a huge problem with picking up this speedwing. As you may have been seeing, there's more than one game over condition on this map because it's a survive map. And if Mansell dies, we have to start all over again. And let's just say he's not really really good at not dying. I honestly don't know who's easier to kill, him or the Roston Knights in this castle. So heading over to the chest is pretty tough because you'll usually die before you have time to grab it, kill the enemy, and then go back, or the enemy will just kill you before you even have a time to come back. And even if I tried a strategy of rescuing him and then going to the Speedwing room, well, our dodge rate, which is already pretty bad, gets dropped by a half, and so does our hit rate, which is also pretty bad, dropped by half. So with a map with a lot of heroes and sword masters, it's not great. We can't even use that as an option, really. So I try to go through these processes a couple of times, but I give up entirely on this Speedwing at this point because I'm pretty sure it's impossible to get, or at least almost impossible to get, because the odds are just simply not in our favor here. It just hinges on too much luck. So we'll hope that Dosla does just like Ross did in his run and gets a lucky crit, right? Well, I'll cross my finger, I guess. Chapter 20 goes by pretty smoothly. We managed to save a lot of turns using the Berserker's mountain walking ability to shave down on a lot of fights and just go around the brunt of the enemy forces. And while Morva causes quite a bit of damage, we managed to avoid a lot of the follow-up damage as I used the pure water a little earlier, so these evil eyes don't do much damage right after his attack. So now that this is done, let's take a look at the final map and see how that puppy goes. Okay, so attempt number 1, let's get right into it by first taking out the hordes of skeletons. Like usual, it goes pretty easily, and the first real threat is going to be the zombie dragon, who has a pretty good hit rate of 81, so he doesn't miss. But we do one turn him with the ease of Garm and high strength. It's just kind of gross, that pairing, really. Best sacred weapon in the game. Leave a like if you agree. So we'll get to use our first elixir next, and unfortunately sooner after that we'll have to use our second one as I get hit by the poison from a spider and some Gorgon range hits, so we are down to 1. But I do open up a straight line to Leon number 2, and here I have a variety of options. Either I use Garm, which will help my speed and in turn my dodge rate, but not enough to make quite a difference. I can use the Brave Axe and hit 4 times and hope to hit 1 or 2 crits on the 4 hits. I could heal and wait for him to attack. Also, quick aside, thank you for pure water to keeping me alive with 1 HP if I do get hit, so that's nice. Or I could simply put all my money on critting with 49% chance to crit on 2 hits and hope I simply one turn him. And I'm kind of the gambling sort. So let her rip, boys. And 1 crit. Okay, we get hit back. We can't afford to not crit now, and we do it. Heck yeah. All right, it's time for the Demon King on the first try. That's awesome. Let's go. And to no one's surprise, as we already had talked about it, we do not double, and our hit rate isn't great with 64, but we do get an 8% chance to crit. And if our luck maintained, we should get a crit, right? And we miss. We just straight up miss. Okay, well, here we'll move away to start chipping away at the reinforcement and heal up. Now it's our turn. I'll take out this Gorgon before she becomes a problem. Our crit chance is high enough here, and we don't crit. And then don't dodge the 55%, and we get hit by stone. Well, I guess that's a way to end our first Demon King fight. Brr, okay, well, I was really not expecting that. All right, Ephraim gets killed here, but the result would have been the same either way. So I think we got taken out by the reinforcements that weren't a zombie dragon, and I think that's a first. If you guys remember at all, let me know in the comments if that's a first, getting killed by the reinforcements around the Demon King that aren't zombie dragons. All in all, the strategy will remain the same for the following attempts that we're doing, and we have a hard time to make it back to Leon, even dying once to an axe reaver and once to poison. Believe it or not, this is a rough one. We are getting extremely unlucky when it comes to this portion of the game right now. Well, it's a little bit of luck and a little bit Dozla's horrendous speed. He really just seems unable to dodge anything. And I'll be honest, rewatching this is giving me pretty bad PTSD from when I did this run. Okay, so let's skip ahead a little bit and we finally make it back to Leon number 2 once again for the first time in about half an hour. And here I decide to try out the Brave Axe strategy. The reason being, I'll only need technically 1 crit on one of the 4 hits to kill him, which means the 19% crit is looking pretty good in our favor when you think about it. All right, so we just go for it here. We hit once, twice. He will hit us back with a 100% chance to hit. And we get that 1 crit we wanted. Okay, Leon's out of the way. We make it back to the Demon King after 30 minutes. So let's see what this bad boy has in store for us. All right, let's go with Garm here. 34 damage. We should hit this, right? Please. Okay, we do hit it this time. We get hit back. We have 28 HP going. We're going to move Ephraim out of the way, of course. Okay, here the reinforcement spread actually looks pretty good in my favor. I get to take out a lot of them easily. All right, here now that most of the reinforcements are pretty much done, I will use an elixir to heal up. And we will go try again. Hopefully we get a crit or a dodge or something in our favor. Let's use Garm. Let's see what's up here. Come on, let's hit it. Let her rip. We don't get a crit. We get hit again. Okay, we'll have to dodge his next attack, hopefully, because now we are in his range. Okay, come on. Let's dodge. Dosla, please dodge. Oh, no. It ends so quick. It's just... It's simply just too easy for him to take us out. We have barely any dodging capacity, but we don't give up. We make it back one more time with 3 elixirs. We try again. We hit him this time. We don't get a dodge again, but let's run her back. Let's try again. If we could get some dodge, some heals, things might fall our way eventually. Again, another good spread of enemies reinforcement that spawn that we can simply very easily clear out. And once that is done and we're all healed up, we will go back to the Demon King. No, we'll not use the hand axe. We'll definitely go for Garb. I'm not doing 1 damage. I want to do as much as possible. Okay, 8% chance to crit. Can we get it, please, or get a dodge? Okay, we hit him, but we don't get the crit, and we don't get the dodge again. Can we please, Mr. Demon King, please? As you'll see here, I'll be on this end screen for a little bit. I'm a little discouraged at this point. I've been at this for hours, and I only got to the Demon King 3 times, and every time I got there, it's not like I was in a good position any of the time, really. I could keep beating my head against this map and hope for a very low % crit and keep contending with this terrible speed, which, as highlighted earlier, it's a little bit lower than Dosla's average. But if I'm being honest, not being able to double is a huge downside for any character against the final boss. And I'm pretty peeved at this point, since I've pretty much been on this trip for multiple hours. And ultimately, I decide that the best thing to do is just to reset. While overall resetting will take me longer than just beating my head against this wall, I'm bound to get a crit at some point. I think for my mental health, it's just better if I restart and see give myself a slightly better chance at least doubling, just to make it more consistent. All I need is like 2 more speed. So it might seem like an insane solution, but I think at this point, it's pretty evident that if I don't reset, I might not be able to make it at all. So let's restart our journey from the start. And of course, I won't play by play everything I've just covered, because most of this goes pretty much the same, but I will highlight the high points. And the first big thing is looking at our new Dosla and how his stats are looking. And already a few things are apparent. We do have lower strength overall with 28, but honestly, I'm okay with it because we have 2 more points in skill to counterbalance that. And we have a speed blessed Dosla with 22 over the previous 16. I only wanted 18 or 19. I would have been okay with that, but I got a whole ass 22. I'm so happy. And to top it all off, better luck and defense. Our res did suffer a little bit, but technically the screenshot was taken before you get the talisman on chapter 16, so it should be a little bit better at the end of the day. Overall, I'm ecstatic about this new Dosla, and our speed is so much better. And while our strength is a little lower, I'm honestly not that worried about it. And Dosla's speed is perfectly showcased on how chapter 18 goes this time around. While it takes me a couple of tries to go through it, you can see now that Dosla's dodge rate has gone significantly up. The hit rates on the Gorgons are around in the mid 40s instead of the mid 50s, and while that might not seem like a huge huge deal. It's actually quite a big deal when you think about it. And that's because of a phenomenon that is commonly known as 2RN, or true hit, which was introduced in FE6 and was kept as a system all the way to FE12. So the simple explanation is that what is displayed on screen is simply a lie. Let me explain why. So the values that are above 50% have actually a higher chance to hit than what is displayed, whilst values below 50% have a lower chance to hit than what is displayed. And here's a chart detailing more or less what each number truly represents. There is a whole formula behind it, but you know, math is for nerds, so you ain't going to catch me trying that stuff. Anyways, moving on, all that really matters is that values below 50% are actually lower than they seem, and values above are actually higher than they seem. So being below 50% actually matters a lot more than what is seemingly displayed. All right, so we make it back to the final map. Yes, we are going there right away, no dilly-dallying around, and we will run into the same couple of issues as before. The zombie dragon can take you out. Even Leo number 2 at times can play spoiler to your run, as Dozla's resistance is still kind of bad, actually technically worse. So the combination of him and his Gorgons don't really play in our favor. Here, as you can see, we make it back to Leon and use our first elixir to be full HP. We'll dodge the 31% hit chance from the Gorgon and make it right to Leon number 2 and just try to hit him with Garm, which looking back on it was probably the worst decision in terms of potential weapon use. But hey, we got a crit and clear him out. Nice. I guess it's Demon King time now. Very, very quickly. All right, Demon King, it's you and me time. 69% chance to hit. As you can see here, we have a chance to double. A very nice hit chance with 69. So hopefully the gods of memes will bless us and will allow us to hit both of these. With 33 damage to hit each, Leon, lend me your strength. Let's go, Dosla. Hit it. And we get a crit. Are you fucking kidding me? We have 9% chance to crit. Are you saying? Oh my god. As you'll see, I'll be stunned on this screen for a little bit because I simply could not believe that this time around, first try Demon King, second go around, we have 1% chance more to crit, and this time around we get it. I resetted a whole run, played through this game a whole 2 more hours, 3 actually, for Dosla to now crit. I was a little insulted, to say the least. But hey, that doesn't matter. We kicked the Demon King's ass. Oh my god, I'm so happy to be done with this run. I'm so glad it's over. I'll be honest, Dosla felt like one of the worst runs in a long time, like Gilliam levels of awful. Outside of the dominant early game, he started to struggle around chapter 16, and getting out of the late game just felt awful. And the statistics, well, they don't reflect any of it. He finished with a time of 7 hours and 19 minutes and a turn count of 345. And this is the perfect example of why relying on those numbers alone for the tier list isn't a fair indicator, because Dosla just hit a new PB in terms of time of 719. It's a new low if you don't count Mur, of course. And his turn count remained quite low. On a technical level, Dosla should find his way in the highest of tiers, but on a practical level, he felt lower than most of my other runs. The deciding factor for me ultimately is always going to be feel, and given that making it through chapter 18 the first time around with an average looking Dosla almost took a divine intervention, and that the run pretty much demands an above average monster to make it happen, I placed him right above Ross. And I know this may seem like a disrespect to Ross, but they have both technically won through a lucky crit, and we don't really know how Ross's final battle would have looked if he didn't get that crit. It's a little bit tenuous here. Things may end up moving. I think Ross deserves another run with the knowledge I have today. I think it would be a much better run, given that a lot of his times and stuff are more based around me not having as much knowledge then and now, but that's a discussion for another time. I know some of you might find this placement a little low because of the really good numbers, and it's tough to justify a much higher spot with how crucial the reset was for him to succeed. I also reworked the tier list a little bit because loot felt out of place in the top rank with our boy Arthur and our girl Tana, especially given her 2 resets and everything we've been learning so far, but she still felt way better than Amelia's. So I guess the tier of loot will serve more as characters that are on the cusp of S tier. I'm reworking it as I go, always keeping it updated and using the new knowledge I have to update it. Tell me what you think in the comments. But with that being said, thank you all for watching. This will be it for the video. Don't forget to drop a like. I'd like to give a huge shout out to all the members, and specifically to our tier 2 member, Brawler456. Thank you, Brawler, for your support. And thank you to all the other members for your support too. Other than that, have yourself a fantastic rest of your day, week, month, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.